Thank you for this opportunity to report to the Executive Board of the Kentucky Council of Churches. The report from Margie Ralph on behalf of the Assembly's Planning Committee is a good starting point for an overview of what is thriving in the life of the Council. The Assembly's Commission has worked to get ahead so that we can get good speakers and places earlier and do better publicity. The group also responded enthusiastically to the visioning team's idea that our Assembly themes should have a 3-year learning arc, teeing up a topic 1 year, exploring it the next, and then celebrating the people who are doing the work in that theme area in the 3rd year. This thoughtful and energetic work inspired one of our board members, Jean Hawkshurst, to network for us with a foundation. And now we can afford to pay honoraria, offer scholarships, and do more extensive publicity than ever before. Good work plus good board members often equals good funding. This is great support to the churches as we explore together such topics as immigration, healthcare, civil dialogue, and restorative justice. The Justice and Advocacy Commission has shown a willingness to get out in public on behalf of the Council. One member, Mary Abrams, made sure that we had enough volunteers to staff the anti-death penalty booth at the State Fair this year. Our chair, Tanya Tyler, has represented us in a meeting with House Speaker Greg Stumbo, was on a KET program about gun violence, at an immigration rally, and more. Our next Justice Chair, Kenneth Golphin, got us into a Fayette County Human Rights Commission meeting. Others from the board have said yes when they were needed to testify about payday lending or to serve on a panel about monitoring water pollution. Former Justice member Doug Fowler literally carried our banner for us at a march and rally for Creation Care in downtown Louisville this summer. Then there's the Ecumenical Formation Initiatives Commission. It's creating bonds among mostly 30-something church leaders, bonds that will shape the future of ecumenical work in Kentucky. They are going deep into their study of the situation of campus ministries at Kentucky's colleges and universities, and have begun to dream of sponsoring a retreat for campus ministers. The Clergy Peer Learning Groups program that we call HOPE, funded by the Lilly Endowment, is now in its final 12 months, and we have retained an evaluator, Dr. Barbara Blodgett of the LTS faculty. At the August 2014 board meeting, you will hear all about this program, its impact, and its lessons. In the meantime, during this final year of that program, the groups are able to apply for funds to do special initiatives, and they are loving it. One group calls itself Imitators of Christ. They just had a retreat that included a day at a spa, and they posted testimonials of gratitude on our KCC Facebook page. Another group, centered in Bardstown, reports that they want to continue what they have been doing after the grant ends. A third group may be on the verge of making our assembly events bilingual and has brought Church of God and independent congregations into our sphere of relationships as a council. The 2 clergy clusters I assist to hold regular lunch gatherings have both grown in fellowship and inclusiveness. These lunches are for the top officials of each of our member judicatories in clusters, both Lexington and Louisville. The growth in attendance shows that at the highest level of our membership, there is a hunger for wholeness. Our Care for Creation unit includes representatives of a half-dozen organizations and has steadily affected our annual assemblies and our knowledge base for creation issues in Kentucky. The geographical center of gravity of that group is shifting eastward, with our new chair being Carol Devine, the founder of the Disciples Green Chalice movement. And this group is likely to double in size this year. A leading ecology lawyer, Tom Fitzgerald, has offered to resource us anytime we want. The health unit is part of why we're ready to help Kentucky's health advocates reach out to the 600,000 people who will be newly eligible for affordable health insurance in the next few months. It is a historic move-the-needle moment for Kentucky, and our 5 years of grant support from the Healthy Kentucky Foundation prepared us to be helpful. If all these groups are taking us on some great flights, so to speak, they gladly acknowledge the council groups that are the ground crew. There are several behind all this council productivity. One is the Nominations and Personnel Committee. They recruit great people for an organization with a 40-person board and another 50 persons serving on commissions and program units. They do it very well while also making sure personnel matters are handled professionally and pastorally. Another is the Budget and Finance Committee that makes sure our audit and our procedures are right, our reserves are invested well, and our budgets and expenditure reports make sense. A third is the Development Unit. In less than 4 years, this hard-working group has created or improved an entire infrastructure of policies and practices. They've made fundraising from all appropriate sources a very intentional business. And then there's me. My predecessor, Nancy Jo Kemper, and her associate director, Chris Skidmore, staffed a total of 7 council units. I staffed 10 without an associate director. So having the help of event coordinator Vinnie Constant for the assembly and for board meetings has been the difference between sanity and insanity for me this year. We've gone through 2 office moves, each time to save money. And in the process, I took 20 boxes to the Filson Historical Society and several to seminary libraries. We've completely reinvented the council's website, and I've rewritten its contents. I've more than doubled the membership of the council's Facebook group page to 310 so far, and people are really using it. In terms of the use of technology to communicate, perhaps the biggest achievement has been with the use of our email listserv and the system we call CapWiz that connects email users to their own elected officials. The importance of these messages is that we are cultivating habits of studying public issues through the lens of council policy statements, habits of connecting directly with our public officials. In the year before I started, the council had 625 subscribers to these emails, and today we have 1,200. In that earlier year, there were 7,300 emails opened by subscribers from us, and this past year, there were 11,900. In that earlier year, there were 482 click-throughs, which is an indicator of a willingness to use our system to send a message to political leaders. And in the past year, there were 809. This does not count the considerable number of phone calls to officials that we also stimulated. In addition, our members pick up some of these messages and send them again to all their pastors and elders. So the reach is much larger than even our statistics can show. Apart from electronic communication, I also attend as many of your events as you invite me to. Here's a picture from a Christian Methodist Episcopal event. And I respond to invitations from colleges like Spalding to speak on Christianity and compassion, or Lindsey Wilson to talk about gambling, from seminaries like LTS and LPTS, and from many congregations to give lectures, teach classes, give commencement speeches, lead worship in Sunday school and midweek programs, and so on. And in order to stay current and find partners in our advocacy work, I attend many coalition meetings and accept advocacy assignments that fit with the Council's priorities. These coalitions are on the death penalty, tax reform, health coverage, youth and children's concerns, payday lending, gambling, and more. It is a lot of activity. How do we measure our impact? We often do not know what difference we make. Perhaps we should commission a study of that. What if we were not doing these things? How would Kentucky be different? One of the few concrete ways I can know an answer to that is by listening for faith perspectives to be articulated at the meetings I attend. Consistently, I am the only person who articulates that perspective. I'm not the only person there who has a faith perspective, but I am the only one from an organization that expects it to be said. It would not be said if we did not say it. The Visioning Group gave us a tagline for our work, witnessing to Christian unity through relationships and actions. We do have a witness, both at and beyond these coalition meetings. At a meeting of groups trying to make it easier for ex-felons to get the vote back, only the Kentucky Council of Churches articulated the gospel message that we believe always in offering new life, regardless of a person's past. On Kentucky Education Television, it was a council representative who related the gospel message to gun violence. In another KET episode, it was I who related predatory gambling to the gospel mandate to care for neighbor as one cares for oneself. In a webinar that will be offered soon statewide, it was the Kentucky Council of Churches that contributed a segment on how tax reform relates to justice, care of neighbor, and gratitude for God's gifts of abundance. At meetings with legislators, it's the word churches in our title that spurs conversations about the legislators' own relationships to faith communities. And often it's clear that relationship needs healing and that our listening to the legislators has a pastoral effect. In every venue, we communicate that 12 Christian traditions are able to develop consensus views on difficult topics and speak together. Not only that, but sometimes we collaborate publicly with traditions other than our member traditions, as when a Southern Baptist group gave us the first speech at their rally in the Rotunda. We have let God use us. I am so very proud to work for and with you, and I love this work. I am frustrated too, however. I am at capacity. It frustrates me to see purposes we could be pursuing or ways we could be making a difference, and to not have the time or other resources to proceed. Some examples. We could sponsor at least one gathering a year for the ecumenical specialists who live in Kentucky and serve national and international level ecumenical efforts. There are some key ecumenical leaders in Kentucky, and no one is convening them to help them get updates and insights from each other that each one could then take into their own leadership spheres. It would be good to take a delegation from the council to meet with the top Frankfurt leaders every December to say, here's what we're watching for in the coming session. Such meetings don't arrange themselves. Can't get to it. We've been coasting on our history of policy statements and are not asking ourselves what frontiers of agreement and disagreement we could be exploring together. Building that conversation and process would take some effort. That's another initiative that's on the tarmac waiting for a chance to take off. The seminaries in Kentucky used to collaborate more, but have pulled back from each other. Could we help remedy that? Shuttle diplomacy takes time and persistence. This one stays on the tarmac too. The visioning report called for outreach to independent congregations that might like to be involved in the council. Will that be one of our good flights or just a flight of fancy? Campus ministries could use some ecumenical care from us. I am certain we could get funding for that. Book that flight or not? What would make the difference? How could we get to more of this wish list? By stabilizing the council's finances. I'm spending maybe 20 to 25% of my time on the funding question, one way or another. This is true in most nonprofits. The economy is still not good. Denominations are hard-pressed. By now, the council should have been endowed and not be so vulnerable to these trends. And thank God we're now finally asking for permanent funds and planned giving. We've been doing all the right things, both in cost-cutting and in fundraising, and God is blessing us. But we are now short of time as we face some deficits. I watch my dear colleagues at the Catholic Conference of Kentucky. There are two of them, not one like at the KCC, Pat Delahanty and Jason Hall. And because of their funding, they are freed up to do programmatic work full-time. With that kind of support, I can help you do so much more. So much more you will be amazed. If I can change how I spend my time to help bring that about, I will do it in a flash. But in the last analysis, it is up to you. That is what this board meeting is about, and probably the next couple of board meetings too. You will hear how we have cut costs. You will hear how individuals are giving more and how helpful grants have been. But you will also hear how valiant and steady denominational giving has not kept up with costs, how grants come to an end, how planned giving appeals take time, and how as a result we face perhaps a $15,000 deficit this year and possibly a more than $40,000 deficit next year. With a reserve fund of only $100,000, that puts us close to the end of the KCC's resources. This amount of money should not, and I believe will not, be insurmountable for a group of leaders as fruitful as you are. I look forward to accompanying you as you embrace this challenge. Thank you.